Good evening, dear all.
Hello.
Happy Merdeka. Yeah, just a little bit of warm up. What were you guys doing this morning to celebrate Merdeka? Or, before you came here? It will be all right if you're sleeping,
I had brunch with my boyfriend's mother. Yeah.
Okay. That's like any other day.
Yes. But yes, once in a while.
But you wrote a very beautiful thing, a beautiful post on your Facebook today. I saw all about how, it has to be equal, whether Seksualiti Merdeka was founded 10 years. 10
you
years
read
ago.
it? It was
yes,
just
I read it.
2 hours ago.
Yes, I read it.
Okay.
I have to do my homework, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what about, okay, so you had your brunch.
Yeah, but just it's holiday, right? So a lot of people, they have other stuff to do. So it's time for me to do work.
Sorry?
It's time for me to do work that I have, do
Catch up
so
on
long. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, okay. And you?
I caught up on work just like the one. So we are so we have work to do, and also I guess I was doing some gardening and transplanting some plants this morning. So
You know how people say that Malaysians are less productive because we have a lot of public holidays? I think maybe they have to consider otherwise because we tend to catch up with work on public holidays, yeah?
Yeah, it's depressing actually. Well, I mean, I also had to write that post because I thought it is Merdeka. It is the 10th anniversary of Seksualiti Merdeka.
Yeah.
I had to say something. I haven't had the chance to sit down properly and write it. So this afternoon, between brunch with boyfriend's mother and buying dinner for my father,
Aiyo.
I had to squeeze in this time to write this emo stuff about Seksualiti Merdeka. Yeah.
That's great, huh? You can be emo so easily. You can come in and out so easily.
I'm like
Fluid
the Hulk. I'm emo all the time. So
I see. Okay, you all guys are introduced to the show as activists, rights activists. So how, and also, in particular for the LGBT community, how did you come to pick this as your cause as an activist, personally? Okay, maybe you're so well known.
me, okay.
Yeah.
go ahead, Barney.
I can't say I picked it. Basically, I think because I spent at least 10 to 12 years of my life trying to become straight. I was a Christian and I was trying to become straight.
Okay.
And so a lot of time was spent suppressing my stories, my voice. And when I finally stopped trying and I felt that I had so many stories to tell, I just wanted to tell everybody my story. And I started writing, also very emo stuff from the beginning. And then I was reading my stories in public, and then I realized that there are spaces that won't allow me to speak, and there are not many opportunities given to these kind of stories. So we started to create more and more opportunities with different people to showcase our stories, because we felt that our stories are actually Malaysian stories as well, right?
Yes,
so we wanted to put it out there. And then I was running an art gallery at the time called the Annex Gallery with Jerome and Chung Wei. And me and Jerome decided, you know what, we should use this opportunity that we have a space to start a festival. And it was actually just because we were lucky enough, being writers and also people in the arts, that we know a lot of people, Tilaga and a lot of women's rights activists who were already working on the LGBT issues, and bring them all together to create this festival together. I wasn't thinking that I was an activist. I don't know anything. I was just an organizer trying to bring people together. But they are so inspiring that being with them just made me want to be an activist as well.
Ah, okay. So you're such an accidental activist.
I'm really accidental. In fact, I think a lot of people still think I'm quite accidental. Yeah.
But it has been a decade.
Yes.
Yeah, 10 years. And you, Numan?
So when I returned from the UK in 2014, so I've always been working with another group that does progressive Islam discourse. So when you talk about progressive Islamic discourse, you have to talk about gender and you have to talk about sexuality. And they offer a sort of safe space for me, to explore that side of my identity. That I'm free to talk about religion and sexuality, even though it's a very close group, right? And then, so back then I'm not an activist or just someone that's believe in more progressive, to reconcile progressive ideas and faith. But then I went to Pang's talk.
You're
that
an
was
inspiration, you see.
that was organized by Islamic Renaissance Front. It was 2 years ago. Yeah.
The one in the Nottingham.
Yeah, Nottingham University.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. So after the forum, I hang out with some of my friends that went to the forum, and we're like, why don't we start something that a new group, right? Like youth-led group that
Because he's trying to say that we are too old.
No.
It's okay.
Because talking to the younger, the youth gay. Okay, that's
No,
good.
not really. It's just that because we a bunch of us are young people, right? So so we started doing activities, and that's, I think we call it Pelangi, and I think that's why people come to know me as someone that advocate or active organizers for LGBT community. That was like 2 years ago, before birthday 5, I think the last one. Yeah. 2016. Yeah.
I see. And Tilaga?
I started volunteering with different groups, but when I was a young person, and so that exposed me to like different communities. So I was volunteering at the Malaysian AIDS Council actually, and so I got to know people living with HIV, drug users, sex workers, gay men and trans people. So that really broadened my perspectives on just life, right? And then I started doing work on like different things, different types of activism, and then of course connected with people. Like I also met Pang at the Annex Gallery, while protesting and homophobic bans and all of that.
That was actually how I got to know Tilaga, because we were featuring a lot of bands, rock bands, indie bands in the gallery, and one of them was very famous for being homophobic, and so she. They weren't being homophobic at the event, I think, but they were known to be homophobic. So she came and hold signs, and then they were trying to, they were very unhappy with her. So they were trying to say, get ask her to get lost and all that. And then she started fighting back. I was like, oh my god, what's going on here?
So is this band still homophobic?
Oh, they are quite bad. Yes.
So I haven't been keeping up because I decided to I have other things to do, clearly. Deal with other homophobes. So I think, and also a part of it was also my own personal questions about gender. And, I was definitely as a child, very interested in just gender, right? As a social construct, as an identity, as a form of expression and all of that. So I think, my activism and my, just working with different communities has also really helped me understand myself and also expand my understanding of what gender is, not just from a theoretical perspective, but also from a lived experience perspective, I guess.
Okay.